we are going to look at how to add some vectors together. So we have three vectors and we need to break them apart into their components in order to see how this is going to come together. So I'm going to start by making a chart, an XY component chart for my vectors, an X component and a Y component chart. I'll start with the first vector, and that would be a calculation of 16 cos 30 and 16 sine 30 in order to get the components. If you calculate that, the X component would be about 13.8 and the Y component would be about 8.0. I'll do the same thing for my second vector, and you could use the 250 degrees in the calculation, or if you prefer, a lot of people would actually use that angle right there, which would be 70 degrees, which will also work just fine. The same thing for the third vector. Some people would use the 115. Other people wouldn't use the 115. They would use the much smaller angle of 65 degrees. It's up to you. It doesn't make any difference. So for my second one, I will do a calculation of 18 cos 70 degrees and 18 sine 70 degrees because I like to use the smaller angles. And that gives me a value of 6.2 and 16.9. Now, since it's going left, I'm going to make my X component negative, and since it's going down, I'm going to make my Y component negative. And for my third vector, I'm going to do 12 cos 65 and 12 sine 65, which gives me components of around 5.1 and 10.9, and since it's going left, I'll make my X component negative. So there's all my components. So now what I need to do is I need to take all of my components and add them together. So my total X component is around 2.5. My total Y component is 2.0. And I can use those to make my new triangle. So I'm going to start with my X component, which is 2.5 positive, and my Y component is around 2. It's also positive. And then my resultant or total vector from beginning to end would look something like this. So now I can use Pythagoras to find the length, and so 2 squared plus 2.5 squared, do some Pythagoras, and the hypotenuse should be approximately 3.2 long. I'll then use my trig to find my angle. I would use tan theta to solve for that. So tan theta of 2 divided by 2.5 and inverse it to get an angle of 39 degrees. So my answer would be 3.2 at 39 degrees, and that would be the sum of the three vectors put together.